For me, well, I really came here, wanted to do research, but really to learn my family history. I've had a very detached family history when it comes down to my Cuban side. Like, it really stops at my grandparents, and the fact that I wasn't able to really meet them to even understand that itself. Being here has really opened up and helped me understand where they came from. And I've always wanted to understand why I was so loving, so understanding, so open to loving others without any barriers. And I understand why, because my ancestors, people out here, they're loving, they're caring, they're understanding. And they're appreciative of where they live, even though there's even in hardships now.
I remember when we first got into the airport, and I remember seeing like birds inside of the airport and like hearing the offset of like old cars and their engines going off, and immediately it felt like I was somewhere else, like somewhere else that I had never been before.
I just saw so much. I saw amazing sunsets that I've never seen before in my life. I saw amazing performances, amazing artistic pieces. I think we saw things that visually stirred up a lot of emotion in us just based on the relation between being Black and what that looks like across different cultures. And we saw a lot of historical pieces that definitely, you know, made us cry as a group, but they were powerful in their own right. And so even though it was a moment to be sad or feel mourning or anger, overall, like being able to see what Afro-Cuban people depict their history like was such a powerful thing to witness.
Going to Cuba and seeing the different farms and organoponicos and watching, you know, like witnessing how it really empowered the community and brought people together. Just made me realize how powerful food can be.
Taste. Everything tasted good. Everything was super delicious. I tried so many foods that I had either never tried before or back home I'm sort of cautious of eating.
They like tasted, they had more flavor than the ones in the US did, I feel like. They were just all so crisp, and they just tasted like hydrating and fresh and organic. And I had never tasted like veggies and fruits like that before in my life.
Seeing where the food came from and seeing how basically like everything there is organic, right? And there's no like pesticides or anything like that. Really fascinated me and made me want to look more into the country's sustainable farming practices and how they've been able to essentially pull themselves out of the food crisis by putting control over the land and over the farms into the hands of the working class.
Being able to see exactly where my food was coming from, and the fact that most people there did know where their food was coming from and often had a direct hands-on experience with actually creating the food that they were eating and harvesting it from seed all the way to the table. That's not something that's super common here in the United States. I would say that's not the norm at all. A lot of people don't know where their food is coming from, and it's not necessarily by choice. It's often, you know, it's just not how our agricultural system is set up. And I think it leads to a disconnect between ourselves and the food that we eat. Whereas when we were in Havana, I felt like really connected to the food I was eating, because we were sitting there eating this really delicious home-cooked meal, and then we got to walk around the entire finca. We could see exactly where everything was planted, where it was harvested.
We were always greeted with hugs and like with handshakes and with open arms, which definitely gave like a comforting vibe and a warm vibe and a good experience. And definitely made me feel like at home, even though I was extremely far away, of course, in a place I had never been before.
You know, people just came up to us and said hello and said what's up, and when we were doing our dancing, you know, like some of the people from the apartment complex came up and joined us even though they didn't know us. And wherever I went, I felt very welcomed there. And I think that's, you know, kind of how I feel when I'm in community. When I feel like I'm in community, I feel very welcomed. And I definitely have spaces in LA that I feel like that. And it was really great to, you know, go to a completely new space and get that feeling like you kind of know these people.
There are some things that reminded me of home, like the little barrios. I think is like very, very similar feel, like the sense of community. So when we were in Regla and I got to see Amberly and Alexe and all their like friends and family, like they couldn't walk a couple steps without somebody recognizing them or shouting at them from outside of a window and like going to hug them, and it just felt like there was really a sense of community there, and I think that that's definitely true in some areas of Los Angeles.
I feel like people view Cuba as a case study a lot of times, but being there, it was like, no, this is like people's lives, you know, this is how they live day to day, and this is how, you know, the embargo and the history of colonization and imperialism continues to affect them to this day, but also learning about the actions of resistance that a lot of the folks we were meeting were doing. I felt like that was something that I could never fully grasp in reading a paper, rather than meeting someone face to face and having a human interaction and, you know, hearing what their experience is.
Right here, it just comes down to human interaction, human relationships, and that is, at its purest form, is the Cuban experience, you know?
But I feel like this trip has like shown me that like I don't have to use my phone all the time or use the internet. And coming to Cuba, you know, not having, you know, actual access to Wi-Fi and stuff has really not been a toll on me, but it's been better because it gives me time to, you know, like disembark from what's outside and, you know, actually like live in the moment.
The reflections that Alexe, Amberly, Maria, Emilio have all given to me has really helped me understand that what I'm doing is important, and what I'm going to continue to do is not only going to cause a positive impact in the long run, but in my head I also was like, I'm creating history without saying I'm creating history.
Just all around, it is an experience that I haven't been able to shut up about, and I don't think I ever will. And it's absolutely something that I will never forget. Sorry, my mom's mad at me because I won't stop talking about it. Like, this is really like something that has fundamentally changed me, like forever.
I feel different now. I think about Cuba all the time, and we've been back for a couple months now, and I think about it all the time. I'm sure my parents are like tired of hearing me talk about Cuba.
I think what I brought home with me from Cuba, of course, is like life-changing experience, lifelong memories. I think that this trip is something that I will never forget. And I think also like the relationships that I made with my fellows and with the folks from Regla Soul and, you know, some of their partners, like I think that those were things that I also take with me. And that's like, you can't put a price tag on that.
But if there's one thing I want to say, thank you to the people of Cuba for allowing me to be in your country and letting me experience your culture and everything that you had to offer. It is truly a blessing to be here, and I hope to come back soon.
My neighborhood. Regla. This is Regla. Mi barrio.
It feels awesome. I've never been out of the country before, and it's cool.
Nice.